And welcome back to Real Talk Sports with Rico. Today, I will be your host. Today's show, we are actually talking about the NBA here. We'll be talking about the NBA trade deadline. We'll also be talking about the buyout market. And then we'll be talking about the NBA standings here on both the East and West side here as the season actually gets ready to take place here starting tomorrow. So the season will actually be starting back up coming out of the All-Star break here. So before we actually jump into the content today, I want to let you guys know that we actually can be found here on Spotify. We actually do have a show that actually does record there every Sunday, so you can find us there. You also too can find us via Anchor as well. So wherever you can listen to your podcasts, we have a new episode that plays on those platforms here. Obviously, you're looking at the video podcast here today. So let's go ahead and jump into the content here. And let's start off here with the NBA trade deadline here. I think that this has been a very, very exciting NBA trade deadline, if I must say here. So let us start off here with the Lakers, because the Lakers were actually the team I think that really started this thing off actually before the trade deadline here on the 23rd of January. And that's where they go out and they get Rudy Hunchamara in exchange here for Kendrick Nunn and 3 second-round picks here. So I know I just butchered his name there. But, I think that this was a terrific pickup to start off here for the Lakers because you look at Hachimura here. I got a chance to look at him when he played for the University of Gonzaga here. And, at 6'8", this guy is a terrific wing defender. He also is a terrific scorer as well and shoots the ball a lot better than what he definitely did shoot in college here. Coming in right now, he's averaging 12.4 points a game, 4.8 rebounds, and an assist a game. But more importantly, he's shooting 48.2% here. So, those who have actually listened to the podcast here before, the one thing that I've kind of said about the Lakers is that they have really given up a lot of their youth with the Anthony Davis deal. They've traded away a lot of different pieces, whether it was Lonzo Ball, whether it's Brandon Ingram, Julius Randle, guys that they had to get rid of, and even D'Angelo Russell at one point, which is back now. And we'll be talking about that. But I think that this was important here to get Hachimura over there. I definitely think he still has a lot left in the tank here for sure at only 25 here. He's only been in the league a couple seasons here. And I think that this was a perfect fit here for the Lakers because this is a guy here that can play off the ball and doesn't need the ball in his hands here, can definitely be a knockdown shooter here. And more importantly, I think he shores up a lot of the defensive kind of struggles here on the wing that the Lakers have here from time to time. So, I think this was an outstanding pickup to start off here for the Lakers to go out here and get Hachimura here. Next up here, the Lakers definitely shook it up some more here on the trade deadline when they went and they got D'Angelo Russell here. So in this deal here, the Lakers got D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley, Jarrett Vanderbilt. In exchange here, the Minnesota Timberwolves got Mike Conley and Nicole Alexander Walker and a 3 second-round picks for the 2024, 25, and 26 draft picks. And then the Jazz here got Russell Westbrook, Juan Tessano Anderson, and then Damian Jones in a 2027 first-round pick. And we'll be talking about Russell Westbrook here soon on the buyout situation. But still with the Lakers here and looking at what they did here, obviously it didn't work out with Russell Westbrook here because Russell Westbrook, love him to death, but he has to have the ball in his hand and he likes to push the action here in the tempo. D'Angelo Russell is definitely that change of pace point guard here for the Lakers. It wasn't Kyrie Irving, which I'm thinking LeBron James wanted to get over there. Obviously, he's had the history with Kyrie before. He's won a championship here out in Cleveland. And so this was a situation where, I think when you look at the fact that the Lakers go out and get a point guard here that actually can play off of LeBron James here and be more of kind of, more of a distributor here. D'Angelo Russell at times, he can definitely be a scorer. He never has really proven that he can be a knockdown 3-point shooter here. I think that that experiment definitely didn't work out because if you remember, he was traded from the Nets over to Golden State, and Golden State ultimately traded him for Andrew Wiggins. And I think the reason that they traded him, obviously, because D'Angelo Russell is just not. He's not a great catch and shoot player, and I think that's one of the things that he's going to be forced into that role. He's definitely a lot better at the catch and shoot than what Russell Westbrook is. But more importantly, I think that, they got them somebody that can be a little bit more into the half court game and kind of work off LeBron James. Now, he's coming in averaging 17.9 points per game, 3 rebounds and 6 assists here. Certainly I think his assist will probably go up playing with Anthony Davis and LeBron. Now he has Hachimura there and Mobamba. So we'll talk about that deal as well. So I think the assists are going to go up. It's going to be challenging, I think, at times for him to be a scorer, even though he had a pretty good debut, I'd say, with the Lakers here. But, it's going to be very dependent, man, on when he can find his spots in there because he's more of a slasher. And that's kind of a lot of what, LeBron is. That's a lot of kind of what Hachimura is. These guys are more of a slasher and they kind of lurk a little bit more in the paint. So it's going to be a bit more crowded up. But I do like what the Lakers get. Again, we just talked about the fact that when they took the Anthony Davis deal initially, they got older. But with this deal, they got a lot younger here. So, I like what the Lakers were doing here as far as, going out and grabbing those pieces here. You look at Malik Beasley, I think is another good piece here for the Lakers. Malik Beasley, I think he played some of his better ball when he was with the Denver Nuggets. Now, he has had some moments here since he's been in Utah, but, this actually allows them to get some more shooting on the floor. That's kind of one of the things that LeBron James, I've noticed, like a lot of his championship games and a lot of the teams that he's been on that have actually won, they've actually had good jump shooters. And I think that this kind of deal was probably the foundation to kind of get a little bit more over there because they lost a lot of 3-point shooting. Honestly, they gave it up. When you think about the fact that they traded off Caldwell Pope, they've traded Kuzma away. They traded a lot of the guys that usually were great catch and shoot guys. And that's where LeBron and those guys thrive because when Anthony Davis, LeBron get into those double team situations, they're going to have to be able to kick it out here. Now, right now, Malik Beasley is averaging 13 points a game. So that's certainly going to help the Lakers here to get somebody else that can kind of score the ball, with Alani Walker out there. So at this point in time, man, I think that this is a terrific pickup. And then I love the fact that they get Jared Vanderbilt. I think that Jared Vanderbilt, to me, he's coming on quite nicely as a great two-way player here. I think that with the Lakers here, he has a real opportunity to kind of get out there and soak up some minutes, especially with the second unit here. I think there's no excuse, man, for him not to be a terrific defender here. He's coming in averaging 8 points a game here out of Kentucky and the 7 rebounds. So almost a double-double, man. And, playing power forward there, he should get a lot of moments or minutes here. Especially with the fact that Anthony Davis could possibly go down. This was, I think, a terrific pickup, for the Lakers to kind of get some more insurance here in the case that Anthony Davis does go down. And so lastly, that kind of brings down the last thing that the Lakers did here, and they went out and got Mo Bamba in exchange for Patrick Beverley, who was bought out. We'll talk about that. Now, I like this deal too as well because I just talked about Jared Vanderbilt being more of an insurance policy, and Mo Bamba is as well. I think Mo Bamba coming in here kind of in a lot of ways mimics a little bit of what Anthony Davis does, but just not as well. Not yet. He's not taking that leap. Obviously, here's a guy that's coming out of Texas here, a high draft pick, and I think it was working out with Orlando. I just think that Orlando made a business decision because, they got Wendell Carter Jr. over there from Chicago, and he's starting to really evolve now. And then they also, have another big over there, essentially that's playing well. When you look at the fact that they got Pablo Benchero, he's playing well, so he's kind of like in the same position there. And then they also too went out and got Bo Ball as well, and so he's actually been playing well. The young man that they got over from Denver. So I think it wasn't a situation where he wasn't playing well. I just think it was a situation where it was a bit crowded. He wasn't getting the playing time and the feature time that he necessarily probably should have been getting. And I think he's going to get all of that here with the Lakers. I think the Lakers are going to depend on him a lot. They traded away Thomas Bryant here. In all intents and purposes here, he probably is the only center on the roster. I believe I'll have to double check that. But, Mo Bamba should be getting a lot of minutes here. And the great thing about Mo Bamba is he shoots the ball well from downtown. So, you're not going to have to worry about necessarily a spacing kind of deal. Obviously, I think that kind of fits in a little bit more with what D'Angelo Russell is kind of accustomed to, because he played with Karl Anthony Towns, who really isn't a traditional big man either. So that's a plus there, I think, for the Lakers. So all in all, I think it was a terrific job for the Lakers here, going out there, getting some youth, getting some size. And in the case that they get an injury here, I would be shocked if the Lakers do not make a serious run in a playoff spot here going into the second half. In fact, I think that, based off the trade deadline thus far, I would say the Lakers to me have to be, in a lot of ways, they're the underdog story that I think should get in there. I've spoken to a lot of people here, and I feel like if the Lakers don't make it, it would just it'd be terrible, because with all the moves that they've made here, it indicates and it shows that they've actually moved on and kind of made amends, I think, for the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 seasons of just basically kind of bad basketball since they won the championship in the tournament. And I think that this kind of pushes them in a different direction as far as the youth movement, which is a plus if you're a Lakers fan, because I haven't even really been able to say that, man. The roster's generally been old. It's been giving up a lot of draft picks, obviously, with the Anthony Davis deal. And then also, too, they've given up a lot of money, too. So they've kind of cleared up a bit of that salary cap here, especially with the Russell Westbrook deal. And they're now starting to trend forward here. So this bodes well, I think, for the Lakers here. So moving forward here, let's take a look here at some other deals that actually got done here on the trade deadline here. So the next one that kind of comes to mind here was the next trade that basically took place here. And that was the Dallas Mavericks getting Kyrie Irving here in exchange for Spencer Dinwiddie, and Dorian Finney-Smith, the 2029 first-round pick and a second-round picks as well here. So, and then also, too, Dallas did get Markieff Morris, too. So, in this situation, I thought that, to me, Dallas is getting obviously a lot of scoring firepower at this point in time. When you look at the isolation category in the NBA, you will see that Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic currently are, I think, 1 and 9. I think either Luka's 1 and then I believe Kyrie is 9 as far as ISO scoring. So you have 2 players who are elite at ISO basketball. On top of that, Luka Doncic is leading the league in scoring at about 33 a clip here. The problem that I kind of have with this deal is that I feel like Dallas has really put themselves in a win now situation. Kyrie Irving is set to be a free agent at the end of this year. That is part of the reason, and actually a lot of the reason why he kind of forced his way out of Brooklyn this last time. Because, he's playing wonderful basketball this year. Everything was turning around. The Nets were starting to trend up. But the one thing that was lurking here is he wanted a long-term deal. And Brooklyn was unwilling to commit. Or, you hear some of the stories that Brooklyn had some ridiculous kind of stipulations kind of tied into a long-term deal that just didn't seem like it was going to be plausible for either side here. So, you know, it, it's a tough situation here. Dallas is obviously going to win the excitement meter. They're going to win some games and they're going to be in the playoffs, but it is going to be an uphill battle in the playoffs because when you get to the playoffs and you get to isolation situations like that, defenses now are able to generally put you into a little bit more of a half court game. Generally, what happens in series is that you're very familiar with what the other team wants to run in that series, which means that the defenses are a little bit more loaded up in those situations. And that is what Dallas is going to run into. Dallas unfortunately ran into that against Golden State. And, Golden State was the better team, and Golden State essentially dismantled, they dismantled Dallas. And this is when they had Jalen Brunson and they had Luka. So really honestly, you have the same roster, but you don't have the same defensive prowess now that you've given up, some of those players here. And I love Spencer DeWitty's game. I also love Dorian Smith's game as well. It does thrust Reggie Bullock into more of a starting guard or forward role here. It puts a lot of pressure on Tim Hardaway Jr. to not only score, but defend as well. And then also, too, it's going to definitely put a lot of pressure here on Josh Green, the talented young man here out of Arizona. I know he's trending up. I know he's trending well, but there is going to be a lot of responsibility now for him to definitely step up here. He is, 22 years old. He's averaging 9 points a game, 2 rebounds and an assist here, but he's shooting about 54% from the field here. So, it's an uphill battle here for Dallas, I think. And then the Nets here clearly won this deal. We'll talk about that here because with that, that pretty much symbolized the end of an era here when they traded away Kyrie. They would go ahead and then the Nets would go ahead and ultimately they would trade away. They would trade Kevin Durant away and they would trade him away to Phoenix here. And so in that deal, the Nets went ahead and traded away Kevin Durant and TJ Warren, so put him back to the Nets in exchange for Mikal Bridges, Cameron Johnson, and Jay Crowder. And Jay Crowder eventually would be released here, and he would go into the buyout market, which we'll talk about that here. Also, 4 first-round picks and a 2028 pick swap as well for Brooklyn. Okay. So with that being said, Brooklyn, to me, really won the trade deadline, okay? They got rid of 2 stars that basically had said that they wanted to trade here. You have now moved on from the James Harden saga, the Kyrie Irving saga, and the Kevin Durant saga, or I should say era, really. It just didn't work, and now you're left with just Ben Simmons there, who I think ultimately at some point – I think that they eventually move on based off what they have here on the roster. Now, Mikal Bridges is an absolute steal, okay? Cameron Johnson, an absolute steal. When you look at the Nets roster now, they have Mikal Bridges, they have Claxton still, they have Seth Curry, which a lot of people feel like, and I think so as well, that essentially the Nets have won that deal with the James Harden deal that brought Ben Simmons over because they did get Seth Curry, and Seth Curry has been a real plus for the Nets over the last couple seasons. You have Dorian Finney-Smith, so you get a defender over there. They still have Joe Harris as well. They have Cameron Johnson. You still have Patty Mills. You have Royce O'Neal, who played for Utah, who is having a fabulous season as well. You have Cam Thomas, who is playing out of his mind at this point. But so the Nets are in a great situation here, a great situation. And as far as the Nets here, let's take a look here just statistically of what the Nets have brought in here. Looking at this statistic here, and this is based off Stat Moose here, shout out to them. Mikal Bridges over his last 5 games, he is shooting 53% here. You're looking at 24 points a game, which is up from his season total of 17 points a game here. The rebound total of 5 rebounds a game here. The assist totals of 2 at this point in time. You know that's going to go up now. He is a starter here. And unlike Phoenix, where he was a lot of the plays were not ran for Mikal Bridges, now I think a lot of plays are going to be ran for Mikal Bridges. And I have always liked Mikal Bridges ever since he played in Villanova under Jay Wright. And I think he is really going to flourish. And I think the Philadelphia 76ers are looking back at that draft deal that they made with Phoenix and are wondering why they did not keep Mikal Bridges. So Mikal Bridges will put the league on note. Cameron Johnson, he's averaging 15 points a game here over his last 5. The key for him is obviously, can he stay healthy? He was good enough to go ahead and replace Jay Crowder. Obviously, Phoenix went all in here on this deal, but he's averaging 3 rebounds a game, 2 assists as well, but more importantly, shooting at 49% here. And Cam Thomas is another guy that I think is going to put the league on note as well. If you remember back a season ago, Jay Billis talked about this young man coming out of LSU, and he said that this guy absolutely can score the basketball. When you look at what he was able to do prior to the trade deadline, he was putting up points. And now that Kevin Durant and Kyrie and Warren are not there, you are going to see just how good Cam Thomas is here. And over his last 5, he's started 2 of those, but he's averaging 20 points a game and shooting 41% from the field here. More importantly, that's up 10 points from what he usually does for the season here. So again, I'm looking at the Nets here, and I think the Nets have really done a great job here. And I think that essentially they've won the deal. I think that they've won the deal here in what they have brought over. You know what you're going to get with Spencer DeWitty. He's been there before. He's a leader as well. The Nets are going to be A-OK. And to me, I think that they are going to be a team that you definitely want to watch here in the East. I'm not saying that they're going to dethrone Boston, but I absolutely think that they really have a legit chance to possibly go out there and make a run here in the East. I think we have to have that serious conversation about the Nets now, in what they could possibly do here in the East. So next up here, let's talk about another deal here that was pretty big, and that was what Golden State did here. So there was a lot of talk here about James Wiseman here, and I like James Wiseman when he came out of Memphis here. And I think that James Wiseman really took a big step here, especially when Steph Curry was injured with the broken wrist. Klay Thompson was out with the knees. Draymond Green was in and out of that lineup, and Golden State was pretty terrible. But I never thought that Golden State was going to be in a situation where they were rebuilding. I just thought that they were retooling. It's a lot of what they talked about after they had got beat by Toronto in the finals, when they were like, they're going to be back. And they were. They went out, they went out and got the picks for Kevin Durant. They went ahead and they got Wiggins back here. And James Wiseman was one of those picks here. And I thought that James Wiseman, along with Kuminga, along with Moody, would essentially be the future here of Golden State. But it just never really materialized here, where he was able to go ahead and even take over, the starting center position away from Kevon Looney. So with that being said, Golden State ships him off here to Detroit. Detroit gets James Wiseman, and Atlanta gets Sadiq Bey, which I think is a terrific pickup for both of those teams. And Golden State here essentially gets Kevin Knox, a player that was actually pretty good for New York for quite some time, but just never really took that next step out of Kentucky. Probably, I'm not sure if they're going to use him, but, if he is the Kevin Knox that he was before, about 4 or 5 years ago when he played for New York, here's a guy that certainly I think can help them as far as knocking down the 3 ball. But Detroit even though they are probably in a lot of ways done, I think this year in the East, I think that they get a nice piece here. I think that James Wiseman and his story is not quite over here. I don't think that this young man is a bust. And I think this is a perfect situation for him to fit in. You look at Jaden Ivey over there to go along with him. They have Cade Cunningham as well, and they have Duran, another talented big man here. Detroit is really building, and then they have Bagley as well. But I believe Wiseman is going to take off here. I do see this young man having a double double. I think that this was a terrific pickup here for Detroit. I know it probably it kind of puts Golden State in kind of a little bit of an interesting situation here. They obviously went ahead and made the trade to get Gary Payton, the third back, and he was injured, but they went ahead and went through with the deal here as well. But you know what they're going to do with their youth, and then also too, do they re-sign Draymond Green? What are they going to do long term with Clay and things like that? I mean, it definitely puts a lot more of a question mark here on Golden State, going into this next half here. Golden State is probably my dark horse here. I'm never going to count Golden State out, especially when they have one of the best shooters to ever play in basketball with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson with that respect as well. They still have Draymond Green too as well. So, I mean, they still essentially have their big three, but they're going to have to get consistent. And hopefully, with this trade that kind of moves a little bit more of a roster spot for them. Hopefully, they're able to get Gary Payton, the third back here, who was a very good defensive piece for them, which I think is something that they've actually missed here. So maybe that's what they need here to kind of click that switch on here. For Golden State to kind of move on here on this second half of the season. And with Atlanta, they get Sadiq Bey, and Sadiq Bey is having, to me, a career year at 14.5 points a game, 4 rebounds a game, and shooting 40% here. I think that he fits in very well with Trae Young. I think that this is a guy basically that can play off the ball here. I think you're looking at a guy here that defends at a very high level, and another guy here coming in from Villanova that I have always liked here. So I think Atlanta definitely got a lot better here. I'm not sure if they're necessarily ready to make some noise here in the East, but I could honestly say that it wouldn't shock me if they're into the play-in situation after they make a deal like that. Next up here, let's talk about the next team that was the most active here, and that was the Los Angeles Clippers, man. The Los Angeles Clippers going out here and making a ton of noise here, man. So, the Clippers first and foremost go out and get Bones Highland here. I like Bones Highland a lot. The guard coming out of Denver wasn't very happy with his role, felt like he should be playing a lot more here. And, you know, they needed somebody that essentially could come off the bench and get them buckets here. They said goodbye here to Reggie Jackson, a guy that I personally like here, a guy that helped them to the Western Conference Finals here. So they give up a little bit of a draft capital here, but they get Bones Highland, a young guard here in only year two. He reminds you a lot of kind of what Jamal Crawford was when he played. And so I think he's going to mature into that. Obviously, he's still got to grow a little bit more on the defensive end here, but that was a good start for the Clippers. Next up, the Clippers went ahead and they acquired Eric Gordon in a trade here where they get it was like a 3-team deal where Luke Kennard went to the Grizzlies, Eric Gordon went to the Clippers, and then you also had 3 second-round picks and the rights to switch with the Los Angeles Clippers, and the Houston Rockets got Danny Green in this deal here. So a 3-team deal. So they get Eric Gordon and they get Bones Highland over there as well. So to me, I think that this was, again, another terrific deal here. You're getting a guy in Eric Gordon that he's been there before. I do remember when he actually made Team USA with the Clippers here, so he's very familiar. This is a team that did draft him. I know he's a bit older now, but he's been playing on some bad rosters in Houston here. He will be playing off the ball beside Paul George and besides Kawhi Leonard. Whether he starts or whether he comes off the bench here, this guy is going to be effective. And I think that this is what they were looking for essentially when they shipped out Reggie Jackson. They were looking for something that could come back in the deal that basically could, knock down shots and be able to play off their superstar players. And I think the Clippers did a great job here. I think that this puts them in a much better situation now to knock down the three ball, especially when the game's kind of bogged down. We talked about that. You're going to need knockdown shooters, and Eric Gordon is a good defensive player as well. That's one thing that you can say about Eric Gordon. He's never been a defensive liability here. And because of that, I really like the fact that the Clippers have gone out and kind of in a lot of ways went all in here, as we'll be talking about what they did here in the buyout market. But, I think that this was a great deal here. Next up, too, with the Brooklyn, too, just to throw this out there as well, they also got 2 second-round picks in exchange for George Hill and Serge Ibaka as well. It was a 3-team deal, actually, and this is where Milwaukee actually got Jay Crowder over from the Nets, too. So, again, man, the Nets just continuing to get more draft capital here. The Bucks get rid of some players here to get the player that they wanted to get here. When you look at the fact that Jay Crowder was linked to the Milwaukee Bucks here, Jay Crowder definitely is a guy that can be effective for multiple teams. I think he could pretty much start on any team in this league, coming in averaging 9 points a game here and 5 rebounds here. To me, with this deal, this reminds me a lot of what the Milwaukee Bucks had when they made it to the NBA Finals. If you remember, PJ Tucker was on that roster. You had Bobby Portis on that roster, Lopez on that roster, a healthy Chris Middleton, I might add, Drew Holiday in his first year, I believe, over there with Milwaukee here. And so I think this is the first time in, a couple seasons that they have gotten an elite defender that can not only defend, but also create shots for himself and knock down shots for himself. This is going to be huge for Giannis and the Bucks, especially when teams try to load up and they try to stop Giannis from going to the rim. Giannis will be able to kick out to a guy like Jay Crowder. He's also going to have that assistance on the defensive end here. And really, if they can get a healthy Chris Middleton here, this is another team that I'm thinking could possibly push the Celtics and push for their crown. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to necessarily take it, but I think that Milwaukee is probably they're in their best situation to possibly get out of the East since they won the championship against Phoenix. Some other deals that happened here, Jalen McDaniels going to the Philadelphia 76ers in exchange to the Portland Trailblazers, getting Matisse Thybulle here in that deal, and also to Philadelphia getting 2 second-round picks here. I like that for a lot of reasons because Jalen McDaniels is kind of coming into his own. A very good star here coming out of the University of Washington here. Some other deals here that got done here. Boston getting some more shooting. They get center Mike Musala and trading here Justin Jackson and a second-round pick to OKC in that deal. And then another deal that I sneaky liked here was Portland trading for Cam Reddish. They get Ryan Acapulco, and then the Knicks get Josh Hart as well. And to add that in, Portland also got a 2023 lottery protected first-round pick as well from New York. So, Josh Hart is a guy, he was a former college player of the year. He was a guy that, if you remember, he was on the Lakers. He had moments where he would have some special games, man. And then he has games where he just kind of falls off, and I think that this is, for Tom Thibodeau, this is a big pickup for them, with the Knicks. I love Jalen Brunson. I love his game. Julius Randle is starting to come back into his own after a struggling year last year. I think RJ Barrett is starting to figure it out as well. You love what Emmanuel Quickly is doing here. They have got a steal with Quentin Grimes out of Houston. He is showing exactly why they went out and got that young man there, the way he's been able to shoot the ball and fit in with Tom Thibodeau and his defensive schemes. And you bring a guy like Josh Hart in here. Josh Hart played in the Big East here. Again, former college player of the year. This guy is going to bring some toughness here. And it might be what they need here to kind of turn the page and get back into the playoffs again. Remember they got eliminated, I believe, by Atlanta, but this might be what they need here. So I like that deal and going out here and getting Josh Hart. Um, Next up here, you look at the fact that San Antonio made some deals here. They got Dwayne Dedman back here, the center that played for them. Um, Looking at some more deals here. The Kevin Durant deal, Thomas Bryant, and we talked about that. Kennard. And lastly, here's another deal too, is the Josh Richardson deal. So Josh Richardson coming over to the New Orleans Pelicans, and then you had an exchange for Devontae Graham. So, a good deal here. I think Josh Richardson's been around the league before. He's played with the Miami Heat. He's played with the Philadelphia 76ers. I like what the Pelicans have done and basically surrounding Zion Williams with a bunch of vets that still have a lot left in the tank, whether it's Ingram, whether it's McCullough. You match that with the Energizer Bunny and Alvarado, Murphy that they have over there, Herb Jones. Like, this team is really in a good situation. I like Josh Richardson coming over there. Definitely a guy that's been in some playoff games. I think he's certainly going to help New Orleans here. So that is the trade deadline here for the most part. Let's talk about the next thing here, which I thought was pretty exciting here, and that was the NBA buyout market here, man. And I think the first bit of news that really made the buyout really just exciting, I think, for this year was the fact that once Russell Westbrook went over to Utah, he got bought out and he was weighing his options. He supposedly was weighing between Chicago and weighing between the Los Angeles Clippers, and he elected to go with the Clippers. And this is very, very interesting, man, because now you have Russell Westbrook, you have Kawhi Leonard, and now you have Paul George. I mean, this lineup, basically, let me throw this out there because this is a stat here, again, by StatMuse. Had to throw this up. Between the three of these guys, 22 All-Star appearances, 20 All-NBA appearances, 11 All-Defense appearances or teams made, one MVP. You have two Finals MVPs there with Kawhi Leonard, two Defensive Player of the Year, and the two-time champion, obviously, with Kawhi Leonard here. So, look, the Clippers went out and they acquired Russell Westbrook, and I guarantee you, okay, it's not too many guarantees out there, but I guarantee you that Russell Westbrook has a heck of a second half here, because if he starts, he's going to push the ball. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are willing to run. Unlike the Lakers that he played with, they're going to be willing to run. It's going to make the game a lot easier for Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. I think that they're going to now not have to necessarily rely so much on the half-court game. They already defend at a high level here. There's a lot to like about what this deal has done. And again, I think you're going to see Russell Westbrook be able to get to the basket. He's going to be more of a slasher. You don't have to worry about him being a catch and shoot guy. I don't think that there's too many offensive schemes with Ty Lue in that system that will put him into that situation here. And even if he comes off the bench, even the second unit is going to be willing to run. They have Terrence Mann out there. Like, there's so many different components. They have Norman Powell, who may be a sixth man of the year here. the Clippers got very scary very quickly here. They were already trending in the right direction because now they're starting to play together. But now that you add Russell Westbrook here to this mix, essentially, I mean, it could be game over, especially if they click here. And another thing that I want to kind of throw up here is that the last time Russell Westbrook and Paul George played together, okay, it was season highs here for them in points per game, rebounds per game, steals per game, 3-point makes per game, and free throws made there. That led to an all NBA performance, that led to an all NBA defense team as well here. And so, you look at that the last time they played together, respectively, PG averaged 28. You see 22 here from Russ. But more importantly, look at that, man. 11 rebounds a game, 10 assists a game. Now, I know it's been a couple seasons since they played together in OKC. Does he still have triple doubles left in him? Absolutely. I think he still has it. Now, it may be not at that capacity. It may be more of like a 15, 10 and 10, but I think that they still can rekindle this magic here. So I think that you're looking at a team here that all signs kind of point up here for the Clippers with that kind of deal. I mean, just all signs kind of point up here. I love that deal. I think that that was probably the best, probably buyout pickup that we'll talk about here. So next up here, you have Reggie Jackson. I love Reggie Jackson. Got a chance to meet Reggie Jackson. Have been to some Clipper games. Got a chance to watch him. And, I'm glad to see that he got bought out by Charlotte and actually plans to, it looks like, sign with the Denver Nuggets. I think that this is a terrific deal for the Nuggets. Obviously, we just talked about how they got rid of Bones Highland. Reggie Jackson fits in perfectly for that role to come in and be a scorer. He's a very willing passer as well. And he's a great team defender as well. So, and he's a great teammate too. So I think that this is a situation where I think this is a win-win situation for Denver. Remember, they're top in the West, which we will talk about as well. You look at Dwayne Dedman, the one who we just talked about that got traded to San Antonio. He would later get waived. He is now going to be with the Philadelphia 76ers for the remainder of the season. This is kind of big news because Joel Embiid, he was kind of questionable for the All-Star break. And you know that as Joel Embiid kind of goes, so do the Sixers. And so they've really yet to be in a situation where James Harden is taken over in the playoffs. Joel Embiid is the guy that makes them work. If he goes down, this is a great insurance policy. They've already lost out on Drummond, who's with the Bulls. They needed to go out and get some insurance there. Justin Holiday over to the Dallas Mavericks, brother of Drew Holiday. Great solid pickup, I think, for Dallas here down the stretch here. Definitely provides some veteran leadership here and could give them some baskets down the line as well. Lastly, probably two of the biggest pickups here in the buyout market, Kevin Love going to the Miami Heat, and then you have Patrick Beverley to the Bulls here. So Kevin Love is averaging about 8 or 9 points a game here. He was playing behind Evan Mobley. He was playing behind Jarrett Allen as well, which is one of my favorite big men in the league. And now he goes to the Miami Heat, and the Miami Heat have Lowry, they have Butler, they now have Love. It's an older roster, okay? And, he's been nicked up. Kyle Lowry's been nicked up. And you wonder how much does Kevin have in the tank here? It is interesting and intriguing. It does go along with Bam Adebayo. Does Kevin Love start alongside a Bam? Is he going to be more of a knockdown shooter? They still have Strus on the roster. You have Tyler Hero as well. I don't know. I don't know how I really like that deal. I'm curious to see. It just really depends on what Kevin Love kind of has left in the tank, really, and if Kevin Love can really go out there and still be an impact player at this point in time in his career. So that's yet to be seen. We'll see if it's a big splash here. but I think Russell Westbrook clearly is the biggest splash in the buyout market. And lastly, with the Bulls, who are sitting 11th in the East, by the way, I like it because they get the hometown guy coming back. I'm not sure that this is going to be a great fit for the Bulls from an offensive standpoint here, because the bottom line is they need to get baskets out there. And aside from DeMar DeRozan, aside from Vucic, aside from Levine, this team really struggles to score still. And that's kind of what crushed them last season in the playoffs. They didn't have very good jump shooters, and they didn't have anybody that could create shots outside of those three. Now, Patrick Beverly is going to give them some toughness. I love the fact that he's paired with Alex Caruso out there. But the Bulls also lost Lonzo Ball for the year. And so that's a tough situation right there. So with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and finish up the show here talking about the NBA standings, starting with the East here. We'll go through this pretty briefly here. And so remember, the play-in game is actually going to be the 10th seed. So yeah, the 10th and the 9th seed there will actually kind of play it out to get into that 8th seed. So right now you have the Celtics here at the top, the Bucks who have been surging here. You got the Sixers, the Cavs, the Nets, the Knicks, the Heat, the Hawks, the Wizards, followed by the Raptors and Bulls who are right outside that. I talked about the Sadiq Bey deal. I like where the Hawks are at this point in time. I'd say this is probably right about where they would be. I said that they should be a playoff team with what they have. Match that with John Collins. I think this is a team that can get in. Are they a team that really scares me? I'm not sure. They did just part ways with Nate McMillan, the head coach. You did hear that there was a bit of, arguing between the players there and Nate McMillan. So I'm not sure how much they're going to be on the same page and if they'll be able to kind of get it done down the stretch here. Miami, we just talked about it with Kevin Love. The key for them is going to be health. Can they stay healthy? Do they get what they looked for in free agency with Kyle Lowry and Jimmy Butler paired together, along with now an all-star and an NBA champion with Kevin Love? The Knicks, I talked about the fact that they got Josh Hart over there. I think that this is huge. Jalen Brunson, I knew was going to change the culture of the Knicks here. It doesn't shock me that they're in the playoff hunt. You add a guy like Josh Hart, they're going to be a lot better defensively. The Nets are one of the scariest teams in the East. I told you about Cam Johnson. We have talked about also Mikal Bridges. We've talked about the fact that they have Spencer DeWitty over there and all the shooting that they have. If they can just figure out what they're going to do with Ben Simmons here, this is a very scary team down the stretch. The Cleveland Cavaliers, the one thing with them is going to be health. And then also, too, have they grown from a season ago? With the Cleveland Cavaliers, they have Donovan Mitchell, who has been there before. You have Garland, who has been in and out of the lineup with injuries. Evan Mobley, one of the most talented stretch big men in the league. Jarrett Allen, I think one of the best big men in the league. They have Jarris LeVert coming off the bench here. So many pieces here with Cleveland, but they're so young. And so that's going to be the thing with Cleveland. They fell apart last year at the end of the year. The 76ers, all comes down to James Harden. If James Harden plays well, not just down the second half, but in the playoffs here, that's going to be the difference for Philadelphia getting over the hump. It all rests on James Harden. They've went out, they've gotten some nice pieces here via free agency. They've gotten some nice pieces here through the draft, but James Harden has to be James Harden. I'm not saying he's the James Harden that he was when he was with Houston, but he has to be the Harden that comes out there and is very effective in the playoffs. The Bucks and Celtics, I talked about it. I like the Bucks because they went out and got Jay Crowder. Here's a guy that has played a lot of basketball in the postseason here. He's one of the most experienced 3-and-D guys in the league here. I think the Bucks kind of turn a corner here. They've won, I think, the last 12 or something like that. So they've been on a tear here. But Giannis did go down before the All-Star break with a wrist injury where he hit his wrist on the back of the backboard statue or whatever the case back there. So um, it's health. That's what killed them last year. Brooke Lopez, he had the back. Chris Middleton was out. Chris Middleton's been in and out of the lineup. Giannis and those guys haven't played together much. That's what's going to be critical for them if they're going to get out of the East. They've got to come together these last 20, 30 games, whatever it is, and they've got to get on the same page going into this thing. And the Celtics, they've been dangerous. I mean, they just went ahead and extended their coach here, rightfully so. Marcus Smart coming back off the injury, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. You saw it in the All-Star weekend. They have been on an absolute tear. And if Boston can continue to score like that, that's one thing. But if they can continue to defend the way that they've been defending, no question that they're going to be in the NBA Finals yet again. Quickly, we go over here to the West. So with the Western Conference, you have the Nuggets, Grizzlies, Kings, Clippers, Suns, Mavs, Pelicans. You have Timberwolves, and you have the Warriors, and then the Thunder right there sitting in that 9th, 10th spot. So, going up the ladder here with the Warriors, the Warriors are the most experienced and dangerous team here in the West. You have to know that if they can string along games like they've done before, easily the Warriors are going to be within that 4, 5, 6 range. And if they're in there and they get in, they're going to be a tough out. The Timberwolves, to me, I don't see them finishing in the playoff hunt. Now that they've made the trade with D'Angelo Russell here, they are very inconsistent. You saw at moments that they would be up in games and then they find a way to lose games. And they're just at a point right now where they first must lose to actually learn how to win. I think that that's kind of what best really describes the Timberwolves. The Pelicans, injuries. If they can get Zion Williams back on the court with CJ McCollum, with Ingram, who's been out, and with that young core of players that they have, just talked about how they got Josh Richardson over there. They have an exciting team, which could definitely be a tough out if they can get Zion Williams back to full health. The Mavs. The Mavs are definitely going to be a team that continues to score a lot of points. They're going to be very exciting here in the second half of the season. It does look a little scary that Kyrie Irving did have to miss time with a back going into the All-Star break. That was one of the things that happened with the Nets is he missed a lot of games there. Health, man, health. And then also, too, they've lost a lot of depth as well. I'm not sure if the Mavs are going to be able to sneak up on people like they did last year. I think this is going to be a tough year for them. And ultimately speaking, they're going to have to make some tough decisions here in the offseason. The Suns. The Suns went all in with Kevin Durant. And when you look at Kevin Durant and you look at this situation here, Kevin Durant is averaging 29 points a game at this point in time. He's up by 2 points in his career or season average. And he's coming off an injury, and Kevin Durant has been injured. And so your question now, if you're Phoenix, is that you've gone all in. You have Chris Paul. You have Kevin Durant. You've given away a lot of your future with Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson. You've given up Jay Crowder, who was unhappy. Now you pair that with Aiden. And I wonder with them, a lot of this is really going to ride on Kevin Durant. And to me, if Kevin Durant gets injured, or essentially he has to play a lot. He has going to have to play a lot of minutes really to carry the Suns over this hump here. I don't like the fact that Booker has been injured. Chris Paul has been injured as well. And this is not necessarily trending in the right direction for the Phoenix Suns, even though a lot of the odds have proven here or put up there that they feel like the Suns can win this thing. I'm not so sure of that. The Clippers. The Clippers are probably, I think, they're the one team that you want to look out for. Kawhi and Paul George are starting to play together. You've added now Russell Westbrook, who I think will revamp his career. The bench is intact. It might be one of the best benches that they've had in quite some times. And quietly, this team might be better. And actually, I think it is. It's better than the team that they had when they blew the lead versus the Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals. And this team is quietly better than the team that made it to the Western Conference Finals where Kawhi Leonard was out due to an injured knee. The Kings. The Kings have definitely revamped the roster here. You got to give Mike Brown some credit here. I love Keegan Murray. He's one of my favorite players as a rookie here. I think that the Kings are trending in the up direction here. I love the fact that they went out and they got Herter coming over from Atlanta. You look at the fact that they have De'Aaron Fox playing at a high level here. There's a lot to love about this team. Harrison Barnes played for Golden State, plays for them still. They have Davion Mitchell off night, a great defender here, a great guard as well. They're scary. They remind me a lot of what Atlanta did when they made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. This is kind of what the Kings are looking like for this year. The Grizzlies say that they want all the smoke in the West. They're not scared of anybody, and they feel like it's their year. They've proven that they can win games in the season. I get that. They're going to win some games. They have one of the most electrifying players in the league with Ja Morant. My question for them is, do they get more scoring input from Dylan Brooks? And then also, too, can they keep Jaren Jackson Jr. on the floor? He leads the league in blocks and then steal blocks as well. But the problem here for him is that he has not been able to stay on the floor due to foul trouble. And I think that that's huge for them. Because he was unable to stay on the floor, I think that that might have been what ultimately kind of cost them that series against Golden State, on top of the fact that Ja Morant did get hurt in that series as well. Lastly, Denver. This looks like it should be Denver's year. And for whatever reason, I don't know why it's taken so long for Denver to kind of get back to where they were. I thought that they would naturally kind of rise back up there to the top, especially once they got Aaron Gordon over there, but it's taken him some time to really acclimate and actually play like he was playing in his Orlando days, his young Orlando days. He's playing lights out here. I love the fact that they have went out there. They got Clontavious Pope, over there shooting well. He's shooting lights out here. I like the fact that obviously the Joker, he's one of the best players in the league, can do just about everything. But the key for them is Jamal Murray. And the highlights that I've been looking at and the game footage I've been looking at, they usually say after you get hurt with the knee, it's not the year after, but it's the year after the year. Jamal Murray is starting to look like that player from the bubble. If Jamal Murray starts to play like that player that played out there in the bubble, the one that where they were able to come back from 3 games to 1 and all this stuff like that, this team is going to be a team to be reckoned with here. So I like it. I like it for sure. It's just one of those things where they've always shown out well in the regular season, but the one time that they played well in the postseason, unfortunately they couldn't get to the finals. That was the Lakers' year that year. But this is maybe this is their year, but I cannot still count out Golden State here, even though they're sitting in ninth. So with that being said, guys, that is today's show here, man. I want to thank you guys for staying with us here. And once again, man, just make sure you press like and subscribe below, as we will have new video episodes here every week. You can also catch us on Spotify and Anchor, wherever you stream your podcast there. You'll see the links to the show notes below here, guys. And so for myself, this is Rico. This is Real Talk Sports, and it's a pleasure to have you guys. We'll be back for more shows. Take care.